Run, that was the first word I ever said to Dante Callahan. Not hello, not sir, not excuse me, just run. I said it with a silver tray pressed against my hip and 6 empty wine glasses trembling in my hand, their thin stems clicking softly because my fingers had forgotten how to be steady. Dante stopped 3 feet from the dining room doors, close enough for me to see the pale scar crossing his right wrist, close enough for him to notice that I had stopped breathing like a normal person. Behind him, 40 guests sat beneath crystal chandeliers, smiling into candlelight, pretending the room had not been arranged around one quiet murder. I should have kept walking. That was what Marla taught every woman in service. Eyes down, hands busy, mouth shut. In the Callahan estate, silence was not good manners. It was how people like me stayed employed, stayed invisible, stayed alive. I had learned that over 11 months of polishing antique mirrors, changing sheets in rooms bigger than my mother's hospital suite, and pretending not to hear men discuss money in voices soft enough to make crime sound respectable. But the whiskey glass had been moved. That was the first wrong thing, Mr. Callahan always kept his drink on the left side of his place setting, always. His right wrist was stiff from an old injury no one talked about, so he reached left without thinking. The new server, a blonde man I had never seen before that night, had placed the glass on his right. Then he wiped the rim twice with a folded white cloth and slipped that cloth back into his pocket too quickly. I told myself it was nothing. Rich men had habits, staff made mistakes. Houses like that ran on small corrections nobody thanked you for. Then I saw Victor Hale at the east hallway door, half hidden behind the white flowers. His navy suit perfect, his face calm, his hand turning a brass key in a lock that was never locked during dinner service. That hallway led to the private exit beside the study. It was the exit Dante used when he did not want guests following him. Victor tested the handle once gently, almost tenderly, the way a man checks whether a secret will hold. Across the room, Marla caught me looking, her mouth tightened. She snapped her fingers toward the pantry, and my body moved before my pride could argue. My shoes made no sound on the marble, my palms went slick inside my white gloves. In the pantry, I stood over a basket of clean napkins and tried to convince myself I had misunderstood everything. My mother's treatment had to be paid by Friday. My rent was 9 days late. One accusation from Marla and I would be gone before midnight, with my last check held for damages I could not prove I had not caused. Fear has a way of making the truth look expensive. Then the blonde server passed me in the narrow corridor. He did not smell like kitchen heat or spilled wine. He smelled like expensive soap and cold metal. A black cuff link slipped from his sleeve and skittered beneath the service table. When he bent for it, his jacket opened just enough for me to see a small key card clipped inside, marked with the Callahan crest. Staff cards were gray, guest cards were gold, his was black. I knew because I had spent months collecting cards from laundry pockets and returning them to people who never said thank you. My fingers closed around the napkins so hard the corners crushed. Dante stepped out of the library at the end of the hall, speaking quietly to one of his men. He looked composed, almost bored, the way powerful men look when they believe the world has already been arranged in their favor. He moved toward the dining room, toward the wrong glass, toward the locked exit, toward the chair Marla had shifted closer to the window with the broken latch. I stepped into his path before I could lose the nerve to matter. His bodyguard reached for me first, but Dante lifted 2 fingers and the man froze. That small gesture made my stomach drop. Nobody in that house stopped armed men with 2 fingers unless the whole room already belonged to him. Dante looked down at me, not at my uniform, not at the tray, at me. His eyes were dark and still, the kind that made a person feel measured without being touched. "You are blocking my way," he said. My throat worked once, but no sound came. Victor watched from the far end of the hall, his glass raised, his smile careful. Marla stood near the kitchen door, already furious. The blonde server had vanished. I thought of my mother's hand in mine at the clinic that morning, her skin thin as paper, her voice trying to sound brave when she told me not to worry about money. I thought of every woman who had ever been punished for telling the truth too early. Then I looked at Dante's right wrist. "Run," I whispered again. For 1 second, his face did not change. The house seemed to hold its breath around us. Then he did not run. He reached to took my hand in his and turned toward the dining room with me beside him, as if the maid who had just warned him was not disposable at all. The dining room did not fall silent all at once. It thinned first like air leaving a sealed room. One laugh stopped before the others. A chair leg scraped the marble. Someone set down a glass with too much care. Dante walked me past the threshold with my hand still in his, and every face at that long table turned toward us as if I had entered wearing a crown I had stolen. Treasure was gone. I did not remember dropping it until I heard one of the empty glasses roll in a slow, lonely circle near the wall. Dante did not look at it. He guided me to the chair on his left, the one that had not been meant for me, and pulled it back. "Sit," he said. It was not loud. It did not need to be. My knees bent before my pride could decide whether to obey. Heat climbed my neck. I could feel Marla staring from the service entrance, promising consequences with the shape of her mouth. Victor Hale rose from his seat with his napkin still folded in one hand. "Dante," he said, smooth as polished wood. "Is there a problem?" Dante reached across the table, picked up the whiskey glass from the right side of his plate, and held it toward the chandelier. The amber liquid trembled once, not from his hand, but from the crystals humming above us. "That depends," he said. "Who poured this?" The blonde server stepped forward from behind a guest I recognized from the financial papers. His posture had changed. In the hallway, he had moved like a man wearing someone else's uniform. Here he bowed his head like staff. "I did, sir." Dante turned the glass slowly between his fingers. "And your name?" "Even, sir." "Even what?" The young man blinked just once. It was the smallest mistake in the room, but Dante caught it, so did I. My fingers curled around the carved edge of the chair. Victor gave a light laugh, the kind meant to rescue everyone from discomfort. "New hire. Marla's department has been short all week." Dante did not look at him. "Funny," he said. "Marla sends me background files on every person who enters my house." Marla moved before anyone called her, stepping into the room with a tight professional smile. "His paperwork came through late. I was going to bring it to your office after dinner." Dante finally looked at her. Not sharply, that would have been easier. He looked almost tired. "Were you?" The room shifted again. Guests who had been pretending to sip wine began pretending not to breathe. My hand was still warm where Dante had held it, but he had let go and the absence felt louder than the touch. I wondered if he had used me exactly the way men like him used everything, as a signal, a shield, a distraction. Then he leaned toward me without turning his head. "The door," he murmured. "Which one?" I kept my eyes on the folded linen in front of me. "East hallway." Victor locked it. Victor's smile disappeared for less than a second. Long enough. Dante placed the whiskey glass back on the table, but not on the right side, on the left. His scarred hand rested beside it. "No one drinks," he said. "No one leaves." A woman near the center of the table gave a nervous laugh. "Surely this is a bit dramatic." Dante's mouth barely moved. "Madam, if I am wrong, dinner will be delayed. If I am right, you will remember this as the most polite warning you ever received." Two of his men appeared by the doors, silent and broad-shouldered. Dante did not raise his voice. He did not threaten. He did not perform. He simply picked up his knife and tapped the silver blade once against the rim of the glass. The sound rang thin and clean. Evan flinched. Not much enough. Dante saw it. Victor saw Dante see it. And I realized with a slow, cold drop in my stomach that the danger had not passed when he took my hand. It had followed us into the room and sat down to dinner. "Take her to the library," Dante said. For one ugly second, I thought he meant to make me disappear quietly. Two men opened a path through the dining room without touching a single guest. Women in silk turned their faces away. Men watched over their wine glasses, measuring which side of the room still had power. I stood because Dante had not asked twice. My legs felt strange under me, steady in the wrong way, the way they felt after too much bad news. Marla stepped close as I passed the service entrance. "You have no idea what you've done," she whispered. Her breath smelled like peppermint. In panic, I did not answer. I looked at her hands instead. Her left thumb kept rubbing the inside of her ring finger over and over, though she wore no ring there. In the library, the doors shut behind us with a soft click that tightened my shoulders. The room smelled of old paper, leather, and smoke trapped in wood. Dante stood near the desk, removing his cufflinks with slow, controlled movements, as if dinner had only bored him. Victor came in last and closed the door himself. That small choice told me he still believed part of the room belonged to him. "This is unnecessary," Victor said. "The girl got frightened. Staff hear things. They invent shapes and shadows." Dante set one cufflink on the desk, then the other. "She did not tell me what she heard." He looked at me. "She told me what moved." I hated that my throat tightened at that. Not because he was kind, he was not, but because he had listened to the part everyone else ignored. "Tell me again," he said, slowly. Victor sighed. Dante's eyes stayed on me. "Not you." The two words landed clean. Victor's jaw shifted. I kept my eyes on the Persian rug between my shoes. If I looked at either man too long, I knew I might fold. "The whiskey was on the wrong side," I said. "The window latch near your chair has been loose since Tuesday. Maintenance was told, but the work order vanished from the board. Mr. Hale locked the east hallway at 7:41. Marla changed the seating cards at 7:53. The new server had a black access card." Dante opened the center drawer of his desk and took out a small brass clock, the kind with hands instead of numbers. "How do you know the times?" I pressed my fingers into my palm. "Because the kitchen clock runs 6 minutes fast. The hallway clock runs 2 minutes slow. I use both when trays have to leave on schedule." For the first time, Dante's expression changed. "Not much." A narrowing around the mouth, respect maybe, or suspicion sharpened into something useful. Victor laughed softly. "A maid with a talent for clocks. Are we building a case on that?" Dante turned to him. "We are building one on why you are afraid of her memory." The room went still in a different way. Victor did not move, but the warmth left his face. I saw what lived beneath it then. Not anger, calculation. He looked at me like I was a stain that had spread too far. "Clara," Dante said. My name in his voice sounded unfamiliar, heavier than when Marla barked it across marble. "Did anyone ask you to speak to me tonight?" "No." "Did anyone pay you?" "No." "Did anyone threaten you into doing it?" My mouth opened, then closed. Dante noticed, so did Victor. The silence exposed me before I could cover it. Dante stepped away from the desk, slow enough not to scare me, and stopped at the edge of the rug. "Who threatened you?" I thought of the white envelope waiting in my locker last week. No note. Just a photograph of my mother asleep in her hospital bed, taken from the doorway by someone who had no right to be there. I had told myself it was a mistake, a visitor in the wrong room. People like me survived by explaining danger until it sounded ordinary. "No one," I said. Dante's gaze dropped to my hands. I had crushed one fingernail into the skin of my thumb. He saw the tiny mark before I hit it. Victor moved then, reaching into his jacket. One of Dante's men stepped forward. Victor froze with 2 fingers inside his coat and a wounded smile on his face. "Relax." I was getting the staffing list. Dante did not look relaxed. "Use your left hand." Victor's smile thinned. Slowly, he pulled out a folded paper and placed it on the desk. Dante did not pick it up. He looked at me instead. "You can leave this room and pretend you saw nothing," he said. "Or you can stay and understand that after tonight, pretending may not save you." My breath caught. There it was. Not comfort, not rescue, a door with a price on both sides. I looked at Victor, then at the brass clock, then at Dante's scarred wrist resting open at his side. "If I stay," I said, "you do not get to use me and call it protection." Dante was quiet for one beat too long, then he nodded once. "Fair." Victor's eyes cooled. And I understood I had not chosen safety. I had chosen the man who at least admitted danger had rules. The first proof came from the laundry chute, which felt right in a house where dirty things were always sent downward. I found it at 2:17 in the morning, after Dante dismissed the guests with apologies so polite they sounded like threats, and ordered the staff to resume cleaning as if the evening had only suffered a seating problem. Marla put me on linens. Of course she did. Basement work, no windows, no witnesses. She handed me a basket of stained tablecloths and leaned close enough for the pins in her hair to catch the light. "If you know what's good for your mother," she said, "you'll stop mistaking attention for importance." My hand stayed on the basket. I did not give her the satisfaction of dropping it. "Yes, Mom." The words scraped my mouth raw. Downstairs, the service hallway hummed with old pipes and fluorescent lights. I pushed the laundry cart past shelves of folded sheets and silver polish, past staff lockers, past the narrow door that led to the boiler room. I wanted to go home. I wanted to sit beside my mother's bed and count her breaths until morning. Instead, I sorted napkins by candle wax, wine, sauce, and the secrets rich men spilled when they forgot servants had hands. A black dinner jacket slid out from between two tablecloths. Not staff issue, too expensive, too heavy in the shoulders. I lifted it by the collar and saw the label stitched inside. Hail, my breath stopped in the middle of my chest. Victor's jacket should not have been in the laundry. Men like him did not let staff touch their clothes unless something had gone wrong. I checked the pockets because fear makes you practical. The left pocket held a receipt from a private parking garage near Pier 39. The right held nothing but lint. Then my fingers found a tear in the lining near the inside seam. Something flat had slipped beneath the fabric. I should have left it. I knew that. I could almost hear Dante's voice from the library, calm and brutal. Pretending may not save you, I broke the seam with a laundry pin. A folded square paper slid into my palm. Not a note, a floor plan. The Callahan dining room, drawn in clean blue ink, with the east hallway circled twice, and the seat near the broken window marked with a small black X. Beneath it were 3 words written in a hand I recognized from staff schedules: move him right. My stomach turned cold. Marla. I backed away from the table, the paper pinched between 2 fingers as if it could burn me. Behind me, the boiler room door clicked, not opened. Clicked, like someone had shifted weight against it. I slid the floor plan inside my uniform blouse and grabbed the receipt instead, holding it out where anyone watching would think that was all I had found. The door opened. Evan stepped through, no longer wearing his server vest. His sleeves were rolled up. His hair was damp at the temples. "You're working late," he said. I looked at the pile of linens, then at the iron warming beside me. He smiled without using his eyes. "Marla said you found something that belongs upstairs." My pulse beat once hard against the hidden paper. I held up the parking receipt. He came closer, 1 step, then another. I made myself stand still because running in a basement meant turning my back. "Give it to me," he said. Before I could answer, the freight elevator groaned at the end of the hall. Its metal gate lifted. Dante stepped out alone, jacket off, sleeves buttoned, scarred wrist bare under the flat basement light. He looked at Evan first, then at me, then at the receipt trembling between my fingers. "Mr. Hale has been looking for that," he said. Evan's face changed so fast I almost missed it. Dante did not. His gaze moved to my collar, to the place where the real proof pressed against my skin. He knew. Somehow he knew I was holding back. And this time when he offered his hand, he did not take mine first. He waited. The space between Dante's hand and mine was only 6 inches, but it felt like the first honest thing he had given me. Evan stood near the boiler room door with the parking receipt halfway between us, his smile gone thin at the edges. The freight elevator groaned behind Dante, then settled with a tired metallic sigh. No one spoke. I looked at Dante's open hand, at the old scar cutting across his wrist, at the way he had not reached for me this time. He was offering a choice in a house built on orders. My fingers moved before fear could stop them, not to his hand. To my collar, I pulled the folded floor plan from inside my uniform and held it out. Dante took it carefully, touching only the clean edge, and unfolded it beneath the humming basement light. His face did not change when he saw the black X near his chair. That frightened me more than anger would have. Men like him did not look surprised when people betrayed them. They only looked disappointed in the timing. His thumb paused over the 3 words at the bottom. "Move him right." "Marla wrote that," I said. My voice came out rough. "I've seen her handwriting on every schedule in this house." Evan shifted toward the service stairs. Dante did not turn his head. "Do not," he said. Evan stopped. Just 1 word, and the man's body remembered consequences. Dante folded the paper once, then slipped it into the inside pocket of his shirt, close to his chest, instead of handing it to one of his men. It was a small thing. Maybe no one else would have noticed. "I did. You hid this from me," he said. "You would have taken it." "Yes." He did not soften the answer. I almost laughed, but the sound would have broken wrong. "At least you're honest when it costs nothing." That landed. I saw it in the slight stillness of his jaw. Evan used the moment. He threw the receipt toward the lights and lunged lunged for the stairwell. The paper flashed white above us. I flinched. Dante moved, but not toward Evan, toward me. He stepped in front of my body before I understood the danger, his back blocking the narrow aisle as one of the overhead bulbs burst from whatever Evan had struck on his way out. Glass fell in bright, harmless pieces across Dante's shoulders and the laundry table. Not much. Not enough to wound him badly, enough to prove his first instinct had not been the evidence, it had been me. The stairwell door slammed. Footsteps thundered upward. Dante did not chase. He looked over his shoulder. "Are you cut?" I stared at the tiny shards caught in the dark fabric of his shirt. "You let him go." "I let him lead us." That sounds like something powerful men say when they make other people bait. His eyes held mine. For once no command came, no lecture. He lifted one hand slowly and brushed a sliver of glass from my sleeve without touching my skin. "You are not bait, then stop placing me where hungry things can see me." The words should have gotten me fired. Or worse. In that basement, with one broken light swinging above us, and Victor's proof against his heart, they only hung there between us. Dante looked toward the stairwell, then back at me. "Your mother," he said. My chest tightened so quickly I hated him for noticing. "What about her?" "Marla mentioned her." I folded my arms because my hands had started shaking. People mention sick women when they want poor daughters to behave. He absorbed that without looking away. Then he took out his phone and made one call. "Mercy on College, room 412, 2 men outside the door quietly. No uniforms, no fear." He ended the call before I could object. My anger rose on instinct, sharp and familiar. "I did not ask you to put guards on my mother." "No," he said. "You asked me not to call it protection if I was using you. I'm not using her. I'm closing a door someone else opened." I wanted to hate the answer. I tried. But my body betrayed me with one unsteady breath. Dante heard it. He pretended he did not. That was kinder than comfort. He walked to the laundry table, picked up my fallen tray from where someone had dumped it with the linens, and handed it back to me like it mattered that my hands had something normal to hold. "You can still leave," he said. The elevator door stood opened behind him. The service stairs waited at my back. For the first time all night, both exits looked dangerous for different reasons. I held the tray against my stomach and met his eyes. Not until Marla answers for that paper, something quiet shifted in his face, not a smile, not approval. Something heavier. "Then we go upstairs," he said. He did not take my hand. He walked beside me, close enough that his shoulder nearly touched mine, and let the whole house see I had chosen to return. Marla was waiting at the top of the service stairs with 6 staff members behind her and a silver watch in her palm. She did not look surprised to see Dante beside me. That was how I knew the trap had already been set. The main hallway had been cleared of guests, but not emptied. Men lingered near the dining room doors with untouched drinks. 2 women stood by the portrait wall, whispering behind careful hands. Victor Hale leaned against the library entrance as if he had been born there. Calm again, his jacket replaced, his tie straightened. The house had become a courtroom without anyone admitting charges had been filed. Marla lifted the watch by its chain. Gold heavy, old enough to carry a family curse. "I found this in Clara's locker," she said. My skin went cold before my mind caught up. Dante stopped walking, not sharply. Just enough that the air around him changed. "Did you?" Marla's mouth trembled with righteous sadness, perfectly performed. "I did not want to believe it, sir. After tonight, with all the confusion, I checked the staff area for anything unusual. Your father's watch was wrapped in one of her aprons." The word father moved through the hallway like a match struck in a closed room. Even Victor lowered his glass. I looked at Dante because I could not help it. His face was still, but his scarred hand had curled once at his side. One small movement, there and gone. Marla turned to the others. "Open your locker, Clara." My throat tightened, not because I feared what was inside, because everyone already looked convinced. A maid who warned the boss vanished to the basement, came back beside him, and now stood accused of stealing an heirloom. It was a story people could swallow without chewing. "Open it," Victor said gently. That was worse than if he had barked. His kindness made the lie look clean. Dante did not defend me. He did not move closer. He looked at me the same way he had in the basement, waiting to see what I would choose when humiliation asked for my name. Heat burned behind my eyes. I hated him for that. I hated that I understood it. I stepped past Marla and walked to the staff corridor. Every footstep sounded too loud. My locker sat between pantry towels and Marla's private cabinet. The little metal door had a scratch across the front, where the lock had been forced and bent back into place. I pointed to it. That wasn't there when I clocked in. Marla sighed. Clara. I turned to the staff watching from behind her. Search it, I said. My voice shook, but it did not break. Then search the person who knew where that watch was kept, knew which apron was mine, and had access to every locker key. Marla's expression flickered. Not much enough. Victor pushed away from the wall. This is becoming theatrical. Dante finally moved. He walked to Marla, but he did not take the watch. He took her right hand very gently, like he was helping an elderly woman step down from a curb. Then he turned her palm upward under the hallway light. Blue ink stained the side of her thumb deep in the crease beside the nail. The same blue as the old library lock, the one that marked anyone who opened Dante's private drawer. Marla stopped breathing. I heard it. Dante looked at Victor. You told her the drawer was clean. Victor's face remained composed, but his glass lowered a fraction. Dante took the floor plan from inside his shirt and unfolded it beside Marla's stained hand. Same ink, he said. No anger, no raised voice, just fact after fact placed on the floor between us where no one could step around them. Marla's eyes darted to Victor, then away. That tiny betrayal of attention was louder than a confession. Dante released her hand and turned to me. You were right. The words should have felt like victory. They did not. They landed in the bruise of every second he had let them stare at me like a thief. I opened my mouth, but the sentence I wanted to say was too dangerous, too honest, too tired. So I picked up my apron from the locker floor, folded it once, and handed it to Marla. Keep it, I said. You seem to need something clean. No one laughed. That made it better. Dante watched me walk past him toward the front hall, and this time, when he said my name, it did not sound like an order. It sounded like he knew he had won the proof and lost something else. The front door was already open when I reached it, but freedom had never looked so staged. A black sedan idled beyond the steps with its headlights low, throwing pale bars across the gravel drive. One of Dante's men stood beside it, not blocking me, not exactly, but close enough to remind me that doors in that house only opened when someone powerful allowed them to. I kept walking. My uniform shoes clicked once on the stone, then stopped when I saw the envelope tucked beneath the windshield wiper of my old blue Corolla. Plain white, no stamp, no name. My hand reached for it before my common sense caught up. Inside was a hospital visitor sticker from Mercy Oncology, peeled from someone's jacket and folded around a single brass key. Room 412 was printed across the sticker in blue ink. My mother's room. The world narrowed to that little square of paper. Behind me, Dante said my name, quieter this time. I hated that he knew not to touch me. I hated more that I wanted him to stand closer anyway. Your guards, I asked. He took the sticker from my hand by the edge, careful not to smear it. The brass key remained in my palm, warm from my skin. I put two men outside her door, then someone walked past them. Dante looked toward the drive, then toward the dark windows of the house. His face did not harden. It emptied. That was worse. Or someone gave them a reason to move. Victor's voice came from the doorway behind us, smooth with apology. I just received a call from the hospital. A maintenance alarm on that floor. Your men followed procedure. Dante did not turn around. Neither did I. I stared at the key, at the tiny number scratched into its head. It was not a hospital key. I knew keys. I carried half the servant's ring every Thursday for linen closets, pantry cabinets, guest suites with locks that stuck when the air got damp. This one was older, heavier, with a small notch near the base where a careful hand had filed it down. I had seen that notch before, not on a door. On the little brass clock Dante kept in his library drawer, the one with hands instead of numbers. The drawer Victor had sworn was clean. I closed my fingers around it. Clara Dantes watching my hand. What is it? I almost told him. Then I saw Victor's reflection in the sedan window, standing relaxed on the top step, too relaxed for a man whose partner had just been exposed. Marla was nowhere in sight. Evan had vanished. The house behind us glowed like nothing ugly had ever happened inside it. That was when I understood something small and useful. Victor wanted Dante looking at the hospital. He wanted every strong man sent away from the estate. He wanted every hidden thing left unguarded. My mother was not the destination, she was the pull. I slipped the key into my sleeve and let my face do what service had taught it to do for years. Go blank. Look frightened, look simple. I need to go to her, I said. Dante's eyes moved once over my face and I prayed he would hear what I was not saying. He stepped closer, close enough that Victor could see concern and not strategy. You will, the words were soft, almost tender and false enough to be useful. Then he opened the sedan door himself. I climbed in with my heart beating against the hidden key. As Dante leaned down, his hand rested briefly on the roof of the car, shielding his mouth from the house. You noticed something, he said. It was not a question. I looked straight ahead. The clock, I whispered. His hand stilled, only for a breath. Then he shut the door and went back toward Victor with the calm of a man walking into the wrong trap on purpose. The sedan did not take me to Mercy Oncology. It turned once at the end of the drive, rolled past the iron gates, then stopped beside the old carriage house where the estate cameras did not quite reach. Dante opened the door before I could ask why. His face told me not to. The night air was cold enough to make my fingers stiff around the brass key hidden in my sleeve. Across the gravel, the library windows glowed gold. Inside, Victor had gathered the men who mattered. I could see their silhouettes through the glass, tall shapes with glasses in their hands, the private counsel Dante never held when staff could hear. Victor thought the house had emptied around his lie. He had always mistaken quiet for absence. Dante led me through the side entrance, not touching me, his steps measured to match mine. Two of his men waited near the library doors, so did my mother. She sat in a wheelchair with a blanket over her knees, pale and furious, an oxygen tube beneath her nose and a nurse standing behind her. My chest folded in on itself. Mom. She lifted one thin hand before I could run to her. I'm fine, she said, though her voice shook. This man said you needed me to be brave for 10 minutes. I looked at Dante. He did not look proud of himself. That mattered. Your guards were never moved from her room, he said quietly. The sticker was bait. I sent a deep car to the hospital and Victor took it. From inside the library came Victor's voice, warm and confident. Dante has become distracted by a servant's imagination. Sentiment is expensive, gentlemen. Tonight proves it. Dante's jaw did not move. He only nodded once to the man by the door. The library opened. Conversation died in layers. First Victor, then the men around him. Then Marla, standing near the desk with both hands clasped as if prayer could clean ink from skin. Dante entered last, which forced every eye to pass over me and my mother before finding him. I felt the old urge to shrink. Instead, I took the brass key from my sleeve and placed it on the center table. The sound was tiny, it still carried. Victor smiled. A key, how dramatic. I said nothing. Dante picked up the brass clock from his desk and set it beside the key. The clock looked harmless in the lamplight, small and old, with a crack across the face. My father had this made after he stopped trusting telephones, Dante said. His voice was low, stripped of performance. It records when the wrong key opens the drawer. Victor's smile faded at the edges. Dante turned the clock over. Beneath the base was a narrow slot I had never noticed. He inserted the key and twisted it once. A thin mechanical click answered. Then Victor's own voice filled the room, faint but clear, captured by something old and patient. Move him right. Lock the hall after the toast. Let the maid take the blame if she sees too much. No one moved. The recording continued just long enough for Marla's whisper to follow. And the mother? Victor laughed softly from inside the clock. Daughters are obedient when hospitals are involved. My mother closed her eyes, not from weakness, from restraint. Victor reached for the table, then stopped when every man in the room looked at his hand. The polished lawyer, the calm advisor, the civilized shadow behind Dante's empire, stood with nothing left between him and what he had said when he thought servants were not worth hearing. Dante did not shout, he did not strike him. He looked at me instead, as if the proof belonged first to the woman Victor had planned to erase. Clara, he said, do you want him removed privately or answered publicly? The room waited. Victor waited. My mother's hand found mine, cold and steady. I looked at Marla, then at the council, then at the clock that had listened better than any person in that house. Publicly, I said. Men like him count on closed doors. Victor Hale did not look frightened until no one stepped between him and the door. That was the first justice of the night. Not handcuffs, not shouting. Just the slow discovery that every man he had counted on was suddenly busy looking elsewhere. Dante stood at the head of the library table with his father's clock beside his hand, and for once the room did not bend toward him out of fear. It bent toward the truth sitting in plain sight. "Hail," Dante said. "You will sign over every account you touched, every shell company you hid behind, and every transfer connected to my father's estate. Then you will leave this house with federal counsel waiting at the gate." Victor gave a sharp, humorless breath. "You would invite law into your own home?" Dante looked at him the way a man looks at a stain he has finally stopped pretending is shadow. "I am inviting consequence." Marla made a small sound near the bookshelves, not a sob, something smaller, older. Dante turned to her and she straightened as if punishment required posture. "You will tell my attorney who paid you, what you changed, and how many staff members you threatened." His gaze shifted to me, then to my mother. "After that, Clara decides whether you walk out with wages or charges." Every face turned toward me. I should have felt powerful, I mostly felt tired. Marla's eyes were red now, but not soft. People like her were always sorry at the edge of losing. I thought of the apron in her hands, the locker scratched open, the way she had said my mother like it was a leash. "Pay the staff you find for things they did not break," I said. "Every dollar, with apologies in writing." Marla stared at me, confused by mercy that still had teeth. "And you never manage another woman who needs the job too badly to fight you." Dante nodded once. It was done. Victor was escorted through the front hall, past the portraits, past the chandelier, past the servants he had trained himself not to see. No one touched him roughly, they did not have to. His own voice from the clock followed him farther than any hand could have. By dawn, the estate looked almost normal. That felt obscene, the marble shone, the flowers still stood in their tall crystal vases. Someone had cleared the broken glass from the basement, and the dining room had been reset with clean linen, as if betrayal could be laundered by morning. My mother slept in the guest room upstairs, guarded by a nurse who spoke gently and did not ask questions. I found Dante on the front steps as the sky turned pale behind the trees. His jacket was gone. His sleeves were rolled to the forearms, and his father's watch rested in his palm, ticking again. "Your mother's hospital balance has been paid," he said. I closed my eyes for half a second. Relief is not always beautiful. Sometimes it arrives so suddenly it hurts. "That sounds like a debt," I said. "No," he placed an envelope on the stone step between us instead of handing it. "Hazard pay. And a reference under any name you choose to use." I looked at the envelope, then at him. "You're letting me leave." His scarred hand closed around the watch. "I'm learning the difference." The sentence stayed there in the cold morning air, unfinished in all the right ways. I picked up the envelope, but I did not walk away yet. From my pocket, I took the plain white handkerchief he had given me earlier, the one without his family initial, and folded it once before placing it beside his father's clock. "Keep this one," I said. "You might need something clean too." His mouth moved like he almost smiled, but he did not take the easy way out of the moment. He looked down at the handkerchief, then back at me. "Clara." I paused at the bottom step. For the first time, my name did not sound like a warning in that house. "Yes?" Dante did not ask me to stay. He did not dress need as protection or power as love. He only opened the car door for my mother when the nurse brought her outside, then stepped back far enough for us to choose the road ourselves. That was the part I remembered later. Not the clock, not Victor's face, not the room going silent. Just the man every locked door had once obeyed, standing still in the morning light, letting one open without him.